Welcome to Grad Guidance, career tips and tools for graduate students. I'm your host, Allie Irk, Associate Director of Graduate Student Career Development at Lehigh University. Today, we'll be discussing the value of professional conferences with Robson Junior, a Ph.D. candidate in the College of Education in the Teaching, Learning, and Technology program. Welcome to Grad Guidance. I'm Allie Irk. Today's guest, we have Robson Junior. Welcome.
Thank you, Allie.
It's great that you can talk about your experience with professional conferences. So I wanted to start by just asking you to tell us a little bit about your background and your program of study.
Okay, so I'm Junior and I'm Brazilian. Back in Brazil, I used to be an English teacher and also English for a specific purpose professor in the local college. And I also have a graduation certificate in distance education. So everything that is happening now, I'm trained for that since 2012. And now at Lehigh, I am in my fourth year in the Ph.D. program in Teaching, Learning, and Technology. And our program mostly focuses on how to create learning environments creatively and with innovations and technologies, especially these emerging technologies, just like augmented reality, virtual reality, that it's my case of research. And my passion and what brought me to this PhD is to investigate the affordances of video games in general and the learning games for all learners across the levels. And more specifically, I am investigating how can video games help us teach 21st century skills like soft skills, collaboration, problem solving, and flexibility and everything like that.
That's great. So I appreciate you sharing your background with us. I think your research sounds fascinating. I want to talk a little bit about professional conferences. And thinking about that, I'm wondering what impact attending conferences has had on you and what skills you gained from these experiences.
Well, I have been attending conferences since undergrad, like in 2006. I was very lucky that my undergrad program heavily focused on the importance of participating in extracurricular academic and professional activities as a requirement for the obtaining the degree. And after I finished my my bachelor's in arts, I decided to share my research findings with the State Association of English Teachers in the state that I lived in Brazil. So it was my first ever conference. It was an international conference, and we received teachers that taught English as a foreign language from different states and even like some guests from other countries. And I was on the spot for the first time, 1 hour presentation, like slides in the back of that. It was very like full-blown presentation. And not only I was able to like break the ice and start doing that because it's a skill, you have to start doing it at some point, but I was very surprised at how fast the benefits came about, like networking. Lots of people, very important people, scholars and colleagues learned about what I was researching in the time, like there was autonomy and learning strategies for foreign language teaching and learning. And then more opportunities come like easily. You start receiving mails, people start thinking about you as one of the references in that area. So this for me has been very important. And now that I came to Lehigh, before I even like came to the US, I already was preparing something to present here because I've always felt that the more you are engaged into like attending the conferences, or if possible, presenting your studies or something that you work with or you are investigating, it's always good because it will always add up. You never lose anything. It's just something that you can add to your experiences and also to your CV.
So I love that you're sharing about the opportunities to network and how attending conferences can really open up new opportunities for you as a professional. That's fabulous. So you mentioned presenting at some conferences, and I saw you recently featured in the College of Education newsletter for presenting at the 2020 Immersive Learning Research Network Conference. Could you share a little bit about your experience and also any tips that you would share with students, since you've been doing this now for a little while, presenting at conferences?
So that's very interesting question because although my research is in the virtual reality and emerging technologies and everything else, it has been the very first time that I was presenting and participating in a fully virtual conference since the pandemic struck. And then I was quite anxious and excited at the same time because I didn't know what to expect. I was thinking that because our conference and like our the immersive learning research network works with this kind of tech like virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed realities. I thought, oh, it's going to be with like virtual reality headsets and everything. But then I was surprised that I learned that when it comes to technology, we need to make sure that we prepare to serve and to reach the most of the audience. So this was a great lesson for me in my area, like academic and professional knowledge. And what I realized that it wasn't like with headsets and anything, it was just like a computer gaming environment. So we had our avatars and we could walk about the location, the virtual location. But the funny thing, Ellie, is that although it was virtual, I felt home. Like I was seeing again all the people that I met last year because I joined the I Learn Research Network last year. And then it was so good because since I had presented last year in London, when we came to the virtual space, everybody knew my name. When they heard Junior, they knew what I did. They knew what kind of research I did. They knew where I was from, that I was like in Lehigh University. So all that magic of like belonging to your professional and academic circle was there. So it was very fascinating. And we were lucky to be able to present 3 works. And we published 2 conference papers. One is about the study we did last year in a public high school here in the Lehigh Valley, a high school. We were investigating how feasible is bringing virtual reality headsets into the classroom. And the results were outstanding. And we finally were able to finalize in like processing all the numbers and the interviews from the students after the experience. And then we published that this year. And also I was presenting another research poster about research considerations for designing immersive learning for English, to promote English learners' ability to engage and, be accessible to them. And just like I said in the beginning, sometimes in conferences, we do not have to have a complete project or complete work to share. In this case, I presented a work in progress paper that was like a combination of lots of graduate courses I had taken. And then since I had prepared so many different final projects that converged to this topic, I said, that's a great idea to share and get some feedback on how people from like the area or even people that work with this audience can provide feedback by seeing my ideas and how I organize them. So it's very interesting. Finally, that's very, very curious. It's an anecdote. I had lots of technical difficulties during this conference, and people usually assume that, oh, you are doing a PhD program in teaching learning technology, so you are a tech wizard. Yes, like I have lots of tech, experience because I have been using that for more than 10 years in my job as a teacher. However, we never know. Technology always surprises us. And I in the first 2 or 3 days of the conference, I couldn't speak. People didn't hear me, and I couldn't hear them. So for me, that was a very like fascinating experience because I was totally immersed in the environment. I had met my friends and my colleagues, but for the first time in my life, I was mute, and and everybody, I love to talk and share and stuff, and I couldn't hear them.
Mhm.
And then I said, oh my gosh, I am being able to feel what it's like to be mute and deaf, but still to be working. And I saw how important it is, like the turns in conversation, and people were still there, like supporting me, and they were trying to troubleshoot with me. And even during my first time slot of the presentation, I couldn't speak or hear anyone. So I just talked like with the chat, and my advisor was next to me in my presentation booth. So he was speaking. I hope he really said everything that we should have said. And I was trying to provide support via chat. So this happens to everyone. We always need to try to troubleshoot and improvise and do the most that we can out of any situation when it comes to technology.
Yes, and I think what you shared is an excellent tip for students is you have to be adaptable and flexible. There's going to be opportunities to learn and grow because there's situations that come up. So it sounds like you've had some of those experiences yourself. I also really appreciated how you shared about through these conferences, you've really gotten the opportunity to position yourself as an expert within your field about your research. So I think that's really a really great point. And I love the focus on community and those connections you made within your professional circles. I think it's important to maintain those connections that you've made and continue to develop those. One of the other topics I wanted to touch on related to conferences. So certainly it's important to locate conferences, identify those that apply to you. It's important to research ahead of time, prepare, know your audience. Another piece that I think comes up sometimes is how you can get to a conference. And so we're fortunate here at Lehigh to have a highly engaged graduate student senate. And I know you served as the travel grants officer last year. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the opportunities available for Lehigh students regarding travel grants for conferences.
First off, the Graduate Student Senate offers two kinds of support. So if you are just attending conferences, it doesn't matter what conference it is, like if you're experimenting and you're trying to, it's your first time or you want to check on a new area, a new work group, there is the support of like $75 for you to attend. I usually, when I was the travel grants officer, I usually said that if there are lots of opportunities around here, the Lehigh Valley, in Philadelphia, in New York, that with $75, it almost covers everything, like the round trip in one day, for instance, you can go and check it out. The second kind of support is when you are presenting or sharing your work, you get double, like $150. Some students at first, they go, oh, it's so little, but the fact is that not, it's very unlikely that financial support for travel is going to cover everything. So the trick and the recommendation, the general recommendation is we need to find lots of sources. So the Graduate Student Senate is one of them. Another thing that I would say we have at Lehigh, and most likely in other universities, the department, all the departments, they have kind of specific endowments and funds to help their own students to go to specific conferences. For instance, I'm from College of Ed here at Lehigh, and we have the Student Travel Dean Award, something like that. And then I use this one as well. So it was like $300 to the list. So let's see, I had 150 GSS, now 300. So I had $450. When you prep for your travels, like your trips, you can buy like plane tickets beforehand, and then you get like round trip tickets for $180, $200. So it's really feasible to even have your all conference covered. When it comes to international conference, which is very common here at Lehigh, our students are great. I have been awarded, and I am very thankful to the Office of International Affairs. They have very important support that is called the DTGO. It's Doctoral Travel Grants Opportunities. And they want, when you have a project that is going to be presented internationally, you can apply for that. And it's like more, like they award up to $1,500 because international fare is a little bit more expensive. But what I want to say is, it is totally possible for us to like find these sources. If we don't know how to start or where to start, we have the support from the Center for Academic and Professional Development. We have the student advisors in every department, in every school. We also have our advisors. We have colleagues that have already started, gathering sources from financial aid, or even start attending conferences. So it's possible.
I think you did a great job of summarizing some sources of support for students, which I think is important for students to be aware of. So I think that was wonderful. I do think it's important to invest in your career development, and attending conferences is one way to do that. And there's never been a better time than now, as many conferences now are going virtual. So you can attend anywhere from your own home. So I think it's important right now to actively pursue those opportunities. So I appreciate so much you taking the time to talk about professional conferences and your experience to share with other students, to learn from you.
No, it's okay. Like I've always said, whenever I can share anything that I've been through and I learned, why not? So thank you for the chance to share my experience with everybody.
Thank you for sharing your expertise. So you can continue to find out more about topics that are important to graduate students on Grad Guidance. So you can tune in next time. Thank you. To locate a relevant professional conference, ask your advisor for recommendations. Network with your peers and use social media. Reach out to professionals and alumni on LinkedIn and Lehigh Connects. Check academic journals or magazines in your field, and join a professional association. You can search for a professional association in your field by using the link below. Explore opportunities for assistance at Lehigh. Check out the Graduate Student Senate Travel Grants and the Doctoral Travel Grants for Global Opportunities by visiting the link below.